Hello class, good morning. Welcome to week 3 of child abuse neglect diagnostics and treatment. This lecture video will serve the purpose as to, of course, reviewing your week 3 assignments, but I also wanted to pay a lot of attention to your first paper that is due this week. This paper will be due Sunday by midnight. Of course, you do have that 2-hour grace period to where you will not receive late points. However, I do encourage you guys to complete this assignment and get in on time and early. And if you have an issue with that, please email me and let me know what's going on, and I can work with you. So let's go ahead and get started. So for week 3, you will have to read chapters 2 and 3. Excuse me. I'm coming out with a little cold, so please excuse my voice. It's a little raspy. So, chapters 2 and 3 in your text, as well as the articles that are listed below, and I'll zoom down to those. So you have a couple articles here. There's an assessment and family boundaries article. There's a child abuse assessment article. There's a child behavior checklist, and there's 2 of those. Well, actually, it's 1 through 5 and then 6 through 8. And then you have child abuse and the brain. So I know a lot of the topic or the area of discussion this week will be on the effect that abuse has on the brain. And I did a little short, synopsis of that in your announcements, just how our brain is such an integral part of psychology, and when abuse is occurring, and specifically trauma is occurring, it has a major impact on the child's brain and their possible development. Studies have shown that abuse can cause delays in learning. It can cause behavioral issues and things like that. So there's many things that contribute to that. And I know we're talking about abuse, so it's important to learn and recognize how that impacts a child's development. You'll also have a discussion board post, and you will need to write 300 words or less, no less than 300 words, over this week's material. And of course, responding to your classmates. You guys do such a great job of including great discussion board posts. I really enjoy reading them, and you guys provide so much great feedback to your classmates as well. So great job on that. So now we're at the main topic at hand. So you have a paper that's due. It is a literature review on the effects of child abuse. So considering that we're talking about this all throughout this week, this should be a fairly easy assignment, considering, like I said, we're talking about everything that should be in the paper this week. We've talked about in previous weeks as well. For this assignment, you will need to write a 4-page paper utilizing at least 4 peer-reviewed sources. So I will say this. You can use your textbook. However, I do not want that included in your 4 peer-reviewed sources. So for instance, you use your textbook, but you still have to find an additional 4 journal articles on the topic that you're discussing. So of course that is of exploring the cognitive, affective, behavioral, and neurological effects of child abuse. So you can find 4 different articles, 1 on cognitive, 1 on the affective, 1 on behavioral, and 1 on neurological effects. And then you'll be completed in that, grading part of your assignment. So of course, your paper needs to be in APA format, and I have a paper that I can run through really quickly for you guys, just to show you if you're not too, informed on APA format. I can show you that paper. I'll talk about it in this lecture, just so you can see what I'm looking for, because I may have said this before. I am kind of a stickler for APA format, so I want you guys to be well prepared. So in a literature review section, if you've never done a literature review, I encourage you guys to just Google what a literature review looks like, and that'll give you a basis of how the format of your paper should go. But as I mentioned, I'll go through the paper and I'll show you exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, so the literature review section includes, of course, a subsection or subheading of cognitive. So you'll have your title page, your APA formatted title page. Then there's no need for abstract for this. A couple of you have asked me that. There's no need for abstract. You'll need your introduction paragraph, and then you go straight into your literature review, and you'll have a subheader, cognitive, affective, behavioral, and neurological, and you'll put your findings under each of those. And also, too, I encourage you guys to whenever you are reading your sources, remember to rephrase your sources and not use them unless you're using a direct quote. And I'll show you that as well. Try more often to rephrase it because, like I said, the similarity checker checks for plagiarism. They do a very good job of that. So just be careful of whenever you are using sources that you're using your own words of what you found in the article. Okay, so you'll review original research on the impact of child abuse that has on those 4 characteristics. And lastly, you'll have a discussion section. And that is where you'll offer your own personal reflections on this topic. Maybe that's an experience, your viewpoints, things like that. Including, say, for instance, if you have a client in the future, what potential countertransference reactions may develop when you're working with abused children. I know specifically I talked about my previous work. I worked in a domestic violence and sexual assault shelter, treating children and young adults for abuse and sexual assault and harassment and all these intimate partner violence, all these things that contribute to children and their development. And I think that there was, it was difficult. And I think a lot of the times I didn't have any abuse growing up as a child, but I was in a domestic violence relationship in high school. So a lot of the experience I had whenever I was experiencing this abuse, and at that time I didn't know what that was. I didn't know what domestic violence was, and offering my feedback to the clients. I mean, sometimes there was a few areas of countertransference reactions where I would remember things that happened to me and I can relate with the client on that level. So I think just looking back into maybe your friends' experiences with abuse, maybe your experiences, and how that may impact your relationship or your rapport with your clients. I think it's a very important area to address because we all have countertransference when it comes to therapy and clients. It's just specifically what is your trigger point. For some people, it may be working with drug abusers. They may have a family member or a friend that struggles with drug use, and working with clients is difficult for them, and they have these countertransference reactions. Or someone who is working with a sex offender, or someone who is working with an abuser. So there's many aspects of therapy when it comes to self exploration and knowing your trigger points, knowing your areas of weakness to where this may affect me and I may not be able to approach this topic in a therapeutic way. So I think it's very important for not only your clients but for yourself as well to know these areas. And also view the topic through the lens of a Christian faith by integrating scripture into the paper. So yeah, I'm incorporating, I would say maybe one, I'm not too looking for too much Christian faith integration. Like I said, just one, if you incorporate one article or one caveat about Christian faith, that is perfectly fine with me. Because I want this paper to focus on, of course, those 4 factors of how abuse affects a child, and things like that. So, and then of course your countertransference and your own personal discussion. So that is that on this week. So as I previously mentioned, I'll jump into APA format. So this is a paper that was submitted to Cal Baptist. I thank Dr. Frederick for allowing me to review this with you guys. So this is the title page of the APA formatted paper. This is what it should look like. It should have running head here, the title of your paper in capital letters, or in all capitals, and it should have the page number. Following that, your title will be here, and it's regular font. It's not all capital here. Your name and your university. You can write your course if you want, anything like that. So here's the second page. And as I mentioned, you do not need this abstract. There will be a time where you can incorporate it, but I don't think in this course we'll be using any abstracts. But this is what it looks like if you were to incorporate that in your future papers. So moving on. So as you can see, running head is not here on this technical second page of the paper. It's just title, your page number, and you jump right into what you're going to be reviewing. So, and as this here, I like how this is. If you want to put introduction here as a subheader, that will be great as well. Just it separates each section of your paper. And I notice how here, this sentence should be here, but this paper will examine blah, 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 blah. So I encourage you guys to put this at the end of your introduction, just so it's overviewing what exactly you're talking about. So this could look like, for specifically for this paper, it will say, this paper will discuss the effects of abuse on children, which include cognitive, behavioral, affective, and neurological components, as well as my interpretation or my own personal discussion of what that may look like. And that's perfect, and that's simple, easy, straight to the point, but it just outlines exactly what you're talking about in the paper, and it makes for a great flow of the paper. So moving on. So here you'll see a subheader, and this is what we're talking about when we subheader. So after your introduction, it will be introduction, and then it'll be cognitive or affective or whatever you want your first section to be. And it'll be right here, and you can put it in italics. You don't have to put it in italics if you don't want to, but that is what a subheader looks like. And then in this section you'll talk about cognitive, affective, behavioral, things like that. And then in your next section, I'll go down one, will be, let's see, it's really far down here. This is a huge, and I can send you guys this. I can put in the announcements if you really need an outline. Just email me and let me know. And here's the second subheader, just to show you guys what that looks like. So like I said, I can include this in your announcements if I haven't already. Let me double check. I might have included it just so I can be on top of the ball. I did not include it in my announcements, and I'm sorry. I usually do that. As I mentioned, I will include this in your announcements, so you have this. Okay, so moving on. We talked about that. So another thing I want to discuss is your citation of sources. So here you'll see, specifically for this one, it says, for human service professionals, burnout is discussed as compassion fatigue. And here they list the name of the author of the article, and the year it was published. And that is all you need. Here's another example. If there's multiple articles, you can write it like this. This is an interesting way that they did this. So Maslach and Leader is 1997. That's one article. And then whenever there's multiple articles, more than 3 or 4, this is how you would quote that. You would say the first name of the person in the article. Say, for instance, it was Reed, Swanson, later, whatever. How many ever names? The first person that's mentioned is the person that goes right there. And then you will include et al., and that is including all of the other authors of this paper. And then you'll have the date that it was published, if that makes sense. And as I mentioned, if you have any other questions, please feel free to reach out to me. I can explain that in more detail. But you notice how this is not in quotation. This right here is not in quotation, but it is rephrased in their own words and has their citation of the material. So let's go down further. I saw that there was a direct quote. So if you are going to be using direct quotes, I encourage you to use quotation marks. I don't think that was it, but if it isn't, let me see. Here. So you see how this source is in direct quotes. So whenever you're using direct quotes, this is what it looks like. You should put your quotations here, and then you should put your source citation here. And it tells you the author, the years published, and the exact page number that it was on. This is something that is not always needed, but if you want specifically for direct quotes, it is encouraged that you do use the page number. So yeah, that is what that looks like if you're using direct quotes. Sometimes if it's a big chunk of material, you should indent it and have it look like this. And you see how it has the page number and has all the source citation, but this is a direct quote taken from this article. So that is what I'll talk about for that. One more thing. I think I want to talk about the reference page, which is important. So, of course, you'll have your 4 articles, possibly 5 if you're including the textbook. And this is what your reference page should look like. It should be in alphabetical order. And the title of the author's name and the publication date, as well as the title and where it came from and where it was published, and the company. Sometimes they have these DOI numbers, that is fine. But the second line should be indented. And that's important too when talking about AP reference pages. So yeah, that's pretty much all. I know this might be a review for some of you, but I just wanted to make sure that you guys had all the information that you needed for this paper, so you can do the best on it. Like I said, I think that's pretty much it. I'm trying to think if there's anything else I wanted to talk to you guys about. I think that's it, and I want to wrap up there. And like I said, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, please feel free to reach out to me. And I will post this in announcements, and I'll let you guys know that the lecture has uploaded. So I hope you have a great week, and I look forward to reading your papers for this week. And I hope you enjoy it. I think it's a great way to explore, the effects of abuse and the impact it can have on your future clients. So I look forward to reading your papers, and I hope you have a great week. Thanks. Bye.